see across the universe for a while, across the distance, across the miles, searching every inch of the skies. I'm the girl with the sun in her eyes, head in the clouds but feet on the ground, hoping you'll find me this lifetime around. Hey nerds, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about annotation and why I annotate, how I annotate, and maybe give you some tips if you're thinking about annotating your own stuff. So let me start by saying that I was one of those people who are like, I'm never going to write my books. That being said, I got over it pretty quickly, I would say. And how I got over it is, I guess, my first tip. If you're thinking about annotating, but you're scared to write in your book, I would suggest writing in pencil first. So that's what I forgot to grab. So this is actually the very first book that I annotated. It's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. And this is the book that I wrote in pencil with for the very first time. I really enjoyed the annotation process. It felt like I was more engaged in the story, and it also felt like I was able to take my time more with the story and spend more time with the story, if that makes more sense. After I finished it, I went back and I erased all the pencil and I wrote in pen. So if you're scared to annotate, I might suggest that. Writing in pencil, you don't have to go back through and then write in pen right away. That's just what I did. But that might help if you're scared to fully commit to pen right away. Now I don't even write in pencil anymore. I fully write in pen. However, I've been thinking about going back to writing in pencil, especially for special editions. Because yes, I do annotate special editions. And I was going to say I'll get into why later, but I'll just get into it now. I might not own multiple copies of the same book, and the only edition I have might be a special edition, but I might love that book. So I'm not going to not annotate something that I feel like annotating just because it's a special edition. However, it's not often that it happens, but it has happened. I would say maybe I would say it only happened like once, maybe twice, where I felt like I was going to annotate a book and it ended up being a special edition. And then I ended up DNFing that book. So I feel bad, if I were to try to resell it or, donate it, that, there's the annotations that I do aren't extensive by any means. It's underlining something and drawing a heart next to it at the most. But still, feel a little bit bad. So with special editions, what I might start doing is annotating in pencil and then going back in pen. Also, going back in pen after finishing the book, I really enjoyed that process as well because, I'm erasing the pencil mark and going through with pen and highlighter. And I felt like I was spending even more time in that world. I was spending even more time with that book. And I don't know if that's maybe why Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is one of my favorite books, but it is. And after I annotated this in pencil, I believe I annotated maybe like 5 other books in pencil first before I just stopped doing that and just started going in with pen right away. So there's that. So I did pull a few examples of my annotation. in different genres, just to give you an idea of how I annotate things differently for different genres. So my reading's not varied at the moment. I'm getting there. I find myself lately drawn more to horror fantasy, and I don't know why, because I'm not a horror girly, but maybe I am. I don't know. But I'm definitely getting away from YA and like getting more, dipping my toes into the horror fantasy genre. The horror definitely has to have fantasy in it because I am a fantasy girly through and through, 100%, always will be. But the examples I do have here are going to be fantasy, YA fantasy, romance, and then I have a nonfiction here. So let's start with the nonfiction. So I have Fields of Honor by Edwin C. Ayers. That's going to be great for audio. It's just 2 S's, so I had to exaggerate. A little background, because of course, I started reading this at my old job when I worked at the Civil War Museum. It is the pivotal battles of the Civil War. So I read this so I could be a little bit more well educated in terms of the important pivotal battles in the Civil War. What I was finding as I was reading through, and as you can see, I do have 2 bookmarks in here because this is where I actually left off, and then it is in my finisher pile. This is where I actually left off, but this is where I decided to, this is where I left off in terms of my annotation. So I decided to go back and annotate. And when annotating my nonfiction, this one in particular, this might come in handy for those of you in school, college, high school, graduate school. I don't know. If you're in graduate school, you don't need my tips. You're smarter than I'm ever going to be. I need your tips. But if you're in school and you're annotating, or thinking about annotating, I have some tips coming up for how to annotate a rented book so that you're not like permanently damaging the book. However, books like this that I have because of my work, I work in a military museum now, so it's still pertinent to my profession. I also have books that I got from when I was an undergrad that I've kept. I'm trying to find my nonfiction. It's right here. But I kept nonfiction books that I got in my undergrad that I have annotated. But I knew I was going to be keeping them as I read them, or even before I read them. I knew, like, just subject matter wise, that I wanted to keep them. So there are going to be books that you're going to want to keep if you're in college. So this might be pertinent to you as well. But anyways, I digress. So it's the Civil War. Not right now. Could you imagine? Oh my God. No, it's the Civil War. And so there's a lot of names. There's a lot of places. There's a lot of battles. There's a lot of, it's just a lot of minute details. And the way Edwin C. Ayers goes through it, he's not the most, he gets into the minutia of battles. I'll just say that. And it gets a little like, if that's not your thing. Spoiler alert, it's not my thing. I may be a military history librarian, and I may have worked all of my career in military museums. That being said, military history? The minutia of military history, like the movements and everything like that, not my thing. When we're getting into like the societal aspects of military history, that I'm good at. But anyways, I digress. I decided when I was reading this to highlight all of the Union, people, places, moments in blue, and then all of the Confederate, that escaped me for a while, in gray. As you can see here, just in these 2 pages, there's like 50 million blue and gray highlights. Those are all people or places. So as you can see, it gets a little confusing, especially as you're going through. So it was really handy for me to start doing that. I didn't get very far in that process, only because I had already started reading and then going back to re-highlight, and you kind of have to like skim and scan while you're doing it. But if you're doing it as you go from the onset, it would be a lot easier and a lot faster. So I guess that would be my tip, especially if military history is not your thing. Pick a color for one side, pick a color for another side. Boom, there you go. Very helpful. Very helpful, very mindful, very demure, very cutesy, very wartime, very bloodshed. So if you were to read, look at my beat up copy. Can you tell I had it in undergrad? And it was not I was not the first person to have this. And actually somebody did annotate it. Take this book, for example. There's 2 different timelines, or not timelines. There's 2 different things going on in this book. There's the murders, right? There's the unalivings, and we're following, what's his name? Oh crap, what's his name? Holmes, not Holmes. I literally just read this a few weeks ago. I was right, it's H.H. Holmes. God, I'm smarter than I think I am. We're following Holmes and his sequence of events and his unalivings of persons. And then we're also following the people who are building the World Fair, right? So, and it does bounce back and forth. And so I can see it being very difficult for some people to not only stay in the mindset of, okay, this is what's happening with the fair, then this is what's happening with Holmes, especially because they don't overlap fairly. I mean, they overlap like here. So I could see highlighting and using 2 different colors for highlighters, or even more, for that, especially with the fair stuff, because there's a lot of people involved in the fair. There's a lot of minute details involved in the fair stuff in this. So using different colors in terms of like the fair in this, that would be very helpful. And honestly, I probably should have done that when I read it. Because the unaliving part was super interesting and like got my attention. The architecture and the putting together of the fair, parts of it were very interesting to me, and then other parts were just like dragging on, and I'm like, okay, does somebody die yet? Like, where's the death? Come on, guys, I came for the death. So anyways, that's the nonfiction. Now I think I'm going to insert a clip here giving you tips on how to annotate for nonfiction further if you are not keeping the book. I filmed this earlier, so it's that, please excuse the jump, but I'm gonna give you tips and tricks on how I annotate for books that I'm not keeping, how you can maybe implement that as well. So I am here to kind of show you how I would annotate, or how I am going to annotate this library book. Now, I'm keeping it to talk about it with my therapist. Obviously, I don't own it. It belongs at my work. But I do want to talk about specific passages with my therapist, and I don't want to forget what I want to say. There's also parts in here that I want to highlight, but I don't necessarily want to remember a specific thing to talk to her about. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some things I remember that I use to remember certain things. This would work on textbooks if you're going to return the textbooks. Also library books if you have like a book club, etc., etc. So for passages, and I'll show you like up close B-roll and everything like that. I'm gonna be all right. But for passages that I want to, oh, here comes a baby. Hi, my love. Hi, I did not forget you. I did not leave you. I did not abandon you, my love. I did not do it. Those are my cookies. You cannot have them. You can't. You cannot have them. You cannot have the cookies. It's not good for you. You cannot have chocolate. You cannot. Because it will kill you, that's why. It will. It will, my love. It will kill you. It will. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to filming my video. Okay. Well, what? What was that? Excuse me, I need those. Oh, Millie. I need those. You little stinker. All right, well, I'll get a different color. Get cats, they said. They extend your lifetime. Life, they said. Millicent. Millicent Quesadilla Head. What are you up to? What? I am right here, my love. Okay, now you're gonna rub on the tripod? Okay. Yeah. What? 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 Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I do see the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the book. I'll do it real fast. I know you don't believe me. Nobody believes me that I can do anything real fast, especially talk about a book, but I can do it. For the passages where I don't want to expand on saying anything, that I don't need to like remember anything specific. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That's exactly right, baby girl. Exactly right. Mm-hmm. For the passages I just want to reference and I don't need anything else but just like, hey, I wanted to reference this passage, I would use these. They're paper. I don't like to use them in my normal annotating. I don't like how they feel and I don't like the durability of them. But for something temporary, this is just a random page, I don't mind. And because they're professional, I swear to God, professional, baby girl. Why was I Jamaican? But because they're paper, you can also write on them. So if you did want to like write like maybe one sentence or I don't know, whatever, something important, you could. You can easily write on these ones is what I'm saying. So that's what I use those for. Whereas if I want to reference something a little bit more in depth, say I want to talk to my therapist about something on here that's a little bit deeper and I want to remember like bullet points or something, I would take a post-it note. Exactly, baby girl. This is exactly what I would do. I would take a post-it note Mm-hmm. I would. You don't believe me? Okay. Absolute chaos in this household. I would take a post-it note. It would already be filled out because I don't want to write in the book. Um, but I would, obviously, it would be better than this. Trust me. But I would take a post-it note already written on, slap it on the page that I want to remember. Boom. There you go. You can see the post-it note sticking out there. You can see the tab there. You're good to go. You're not writing in the book. You can also do this with your own books if you're scared to write in your books, which is fair and valid. Not everybody wants to write in their books. So that's what I'm going to be doing eventually. You can get there. Yeah, come on. Yeah. I'm so happy I'm catching this on camera. Yeah. Good Lord. All right. Well, that's my cue. Um, so moving on. Let's do romance next. I do not annotate romance often. In fact, the book I'm going to show you is probably the only romance book I've annotated. And it is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. And I actually annotated book 2 and 3 as well. I started annotating book 4 and then quickly realized it didn't hit as hard as the first 3 books. So I didn't continue annotating. I probably won't continue annotating the series. So why do I annotate? I won't annotate everything. I know some people do annotate like literally every single thing they read. Even if they don't like the book, they'll annotate it, and like props to those people, but it could not be me. A book that I don't like already sits with me too long, and if I were to annotate it as well, I think I would maybe go a little crazy, because when I annotate, I spend extra time with the book. And if I don't like the book, why would I want to spend extra time with it? So props to those people, but like it could not be me. So I typically will only annotate a book by a author that I know I'm gonna want to annotate for. For me, that's T.J. Klune. That is V.E. Schwab. That's Lee Bardugo, right? So I have my authors that I know when I pick up their book, I'm going to annotate. Then there's the books that feel like a 5-star to me. For example, you pick up a book and you'll just like know, hey, I want to annotate this one. I think I'm going to want to annotate this. Whether it be the synopsis, the vibes, just something in you. I can't explain it, but like something in you will like be like, that's going to be a 5-star for me. You'll pick it up and you'll probably want to annotate that. So I go based off of vibes. And sometimes at one point I was picking out annotation supplies for literally every single book that I picked up just in case I wanted to annotate it. And that's a way to do it too. I don't do that anymore. mainly because I've gotten good at knowing myself and knowing what books I'll want to annotate and what books I won't. So, anyways, that's kind of how I pick what I'm going to annotate. And there have been missed opportunities for me personally in the past where I have known that a book was going to be 5 stars for me and I didn't annotate it for whatever reason. And halfway through the book, I'm like, frick, I should have annotated this. And so now I have to wait for a reread to come along so I can annotate it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because now I get to reread one of my favorite books, but it's a little bit frustrating because now I have to reread a book. So that I could be spending time, not rereading, but reading something I haven't read yet. So with romance, like I said, I don't annotate a lot only because it's romance. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who do annotate romance. And if you are somebody who annotates a lot and you annotate your romance, please let me know down below because I find it fascinating. When I picked up this book, literally I annotated for 2 things. Moments and quotes that I love. I just combined those 2 things. And then moments that made me cry. Because if there's one thing about a 5-star, it's got to make me cry. And funnily enough, this one is one that I annotated in pencil. And it's still annotated in pencil. And if you can hear the wind coming through my window, I am so sorry. It's a strong wind today. She blows. Yeah, she does. But this one, you can't really see it, but it is still annotated in pencil. I didn't go back in and I didn't, erase the pencil and put it in pen and highlight and all that. It's strictly tabs and pencil. So, what did I say there? I said, girl, same. I underlined it and I said, girl, same. But I do a combination of underline, brackets, in case I, want to, because I'm not going to sit there and underline a whole entire page or underline half a page. That's too much. So I bracket it because I still get my point across that that's what we're here for. I always typically do 1 tab on a page. Sometimes that will change depending on how I feel, depending on the book, and depending on what the tabs mean. So, but this is the first romance I annotated and one of the only romances I've annotated. And honestly, I don't see myself annotating any other romance except for I might annotate Emily Henry. I don't know yet. I just feel like if I were to annotate any romance, it would be Emily Henry, right? I haven't read anything from her yet, but I have, at the time of filming this, I haven't read anything of hers yet, but I do have Funny Story and I have Beach Read on the way. So I just get the vibes that maybe I'd want to annotate her stuff. Not sure yet. Okay, let me show you. This is a YA fantasy. If I Have to Be Haunted by Miranda Sun. One of my favorites. One of my favorite YAs, honestly. 5 stars. Highly recommend. But as you can see, it's a special edition. So I know a lot of people won't annotate their a lot of people won't even touch their special editions to read them. They'll read something else, which is completely fine and valid if that's how you want to do things. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life and how to read your books. For me, I don't have a Kindle. I don't have like an e-reader or anything like that. I much prefer reading a book physically. That's just how I absorb it best. Despite me having 5 copies of the same book, I find it a little wasteful to have more than 1 copy of a book I don't even know I'm going to like yet, right? The only reason I have 5 copies of this book is because it's literally my favorite book and I know I love it. But if I just got this book in a book box and it's a special edition, I'm not going to run out and buy a normal edition of it if I don't even know I like it. And how am I going to know I like it if I won't read it? So I have to, and then you run into the problem of like, okay, I want to annotate this book. I think it's going to be a 5-star for me. But if you don't annotate it just because it's a special edition, then now you run into the problem of now I have to reread it because I didn't annotate it the first time. So this is where pencil would come in handy if you want to do that. Like, you don't have to like super hard like write in pencil. Like, it's very easily, you can go in with a light hand with pencil in your special editions and like erase it. It's fine, I promise. I know it's scary. But if you really truly honestly feel like something is 5 stars, I know it bumps down the resale value of a special edition. But I don't think about that when I'm reading it because it's my book, right? This is my book. I'm not thinking about selling it unless I don't like it. But I don't know if I don't like it until I read it. So anyways, that's just my little rant. My little ranty brew. But anyways, with special editions, they often have the sprayed edges. What I do is, as you can see, I did annotate this, but I put the tabs on the top. So I started doing that. That's a tip for you. If you're, because I mean, you could put them on the side here, but if you're, well, I don't know how, like, it depends on how you display your books. I display mine with the edges out for my special editions because they're beautiful and they're gorgeous and I want to see them. So to have a bunch of tags sticking out to break up the design is a little no for me. So I went ahead and I put them on the top. And even with the solid sprayed edges, I've started just putting them on the top. It's just easier to just put them on the top. I don't always. For like normal books, I'll still put them on the side, but for special editions, they always go on the top. Now, there's only 2 colors because I annotated this when I was still new to annotating. They are just 2 colors: moments I love and quotes I love. I didn't even put I cry in here. That's honestly one of the things that I do in pretty much every book I annotate has a cry tab in it because it's not going to be a 5-star for me if I don't cry. But I know I did cry in this one. So it's just funny to me that I don't have a cry tab. Maybe I'll have to reread this and figure out why I don't have a cry tab. As you can see here, it's just basically the tab up top and then a bracket down here. I don't get crazy with my annotations, guys. Like, and you don't have to either. Like, especially if I just annotate because I want to. The book is making me feel something, right? And I want to remember that, right? So, especially if it's a 5-star book for me, and I'm going to keep the book forever. This is I believe, Moments I Love, and just drew little hearts in the page. I mean, that's basically it. I don't like sit there and do like a soliloquy in the margins of the book. I wish that I could. I wish that I was that girl. I'm not. I'm really not. And in some books, I think I do have like maybe 1 or 2 lines like written in the margins for certain things, but for the most part, it's just like a heart with an exclamation point or a picture of a broken heart or, or basically it's just underlining, brackets, and highlighting. So it's very simple. It doesn't have to be like a whole bunch of stuff. It can be super simple, but still get your emotions across. And then last but not least, I pulled what I would consider one of my most annotated books. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's annotated to the gods. Yeah. Annotated to the gods. So this is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. As you can probably tell, I highly recommend. It's a 5-star. It's a 5-star series for me, let alone 5-star book. Now, every book I go into with roughly the same things in mind for annotating. It'll vary from genre to genre, right? I mean, like I said, I mostly only annotate fantasy, but even within fantasy, there's like levels, right? I won't annotate a high fantasy the same way that I annotate a romantasy. It just won't. The things that I'm looking for and the things that I'm trying to remember and vibe with, they're completely different in those two things. So, but there are some things that cross genre I annotate for. One, quotes that I love, obviously. This is something that a character will say to another character, something a character will say to themselves. It's a spoken thing, okay? Two, scenes that I love. Okay, so this is a scene between people. Okay, so it can be like a conversation. Quotes that I love is specifically just one quote by one person. Scenes is an entire, obviously, scene, right? It's either a conversation between two characters or more characters. It's a character and some prose in there. It's an action scene, something, right? Three would be prose that I love. This would be like inner monologue. This would be um, prose from the author's standpoint, right? And then the fourth thing that I always annotate for is I cry. Because a 5-star, as we've already established today, a 5-star is gonna make me cry. So those are basically the 4 things that I always annotate for. Now, if it's a high fantasy, what I'm going to want to include is going to be like world building or lore. In this one, I have scenes I love, prose I love, important scenes. So this would be, important scenes would kind of be like lore. That would kind of like take the place of lore, but it's a little bit different. It's not lore in the high fantasy sense. It's an important scene that I knew was going to be coming back into play, that I wanted to reference and remember. And then I have relatable. So anything that I feel is highly relatable, that maybe didn't fit the other tabs, or that hit me harder than, oh, I just love this prose, right? I just love this quote. It's highly relatable. So, for example, this is a relatable one that I highlighted, and it's prose. And so it's in the point of view of, I believe, Ox, which is one of the main characters in here. And it says, but I still had trouble with words sometimes. It wasn't that I didn't have any, it was that I had too many, and they all got stuck trying to come out at once. Hello, relatable. You see what I mean? Like, it's relatable. It's prose, but it's highly relatable prose, and it's more than prose. It's relatable prose. So I needed to go ahead and give it its own tab. So I'm going to show you now how I pick annotation supplies, how I sit down to annotate. That's coming up. You're going to see me doing book number 4 for this series. I've already done it. So that's past me. And I'll see you later. Okay, so this is my next read, and I will be picking out the annotation supplies for it, and you will be coming along with me for that whole thing. Let's start with pens first. This is purples, pinks, and blues. I'm going to go with a purple pen and probably like a purple blue highlighter. So this is my pen cup, an old candle holder. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out all my purple pens. I really like these ones. They're the Bic Soft Feel medium. So I think I'm just going to go with that. They don't bleed through the paper or anything like that. And if I have a purple one, I'm going to use it. So I think I'm just going to go with this one. No need to do anything else. Pens are pretty much the easiest part of this process, to be quite honest with you. Now we're going to go with highlighters. Now this is a little bit more tricky. These are all my highlighters. This is my highlighter holder, another candle holder. So I'm going to take out all the purple blue ones, and then we're going to swatch. And I'll show you how I do that in a minute. Some of these are deceptively pink. Some of these could be pink, but honestly, that works with this. Maybe that. Maybe that. I don't want to go too pink. I want to stay in like the purple blue realm of things. Maybe even that. Okay. And these are just Mr. Pen. I got them off of Amazon. And then these are whatever that says. Aloe Haster. Which I believe I also got off of Amazon. And then these ones I got in a book box. I believe it was Owl Crate. There's a blue one too. So, and then of course, we have mild liner, Zebra. I'm gonna go ahead and get my scrap piece of paper, and we're gonna go ahead and swatch all of these. And I'll show you how I do that, because of course there's a process. Okay, so I have 8 highlighter options. So I just wrote the title of the book in the pen choice. And as you can see, I did that up here for a different book. And I'm just going to go ahead and swatch all of the highlighter options here. And we're going to choose whichever one complements best. So, or whichever one I vibe with best, or both. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go ahead and swatch. Okay, these are our options, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull the cover back in. I keep all the highlighters in order, but here you can see the cover with our options. So I am vibing with this one, and this one. This one's very light in person. I think I'm going to take that one out of the running. Although in the other 2 books, the highlight, or the other 3 books, the highlight in there is also very light. So I feel like that would be aesthetically the same, but whatever. On camera, it's showing up a little bit darker than in person. I think I'm going to go with the blue toned one because it just looks so good with the purple pencil or the purple pen. So that's going to be the Mr. Pen highlighter. So go ahead and put all those away. And we have our highlighter and our pen. Now we'll do bookmark. Usually I'll do this last, but the tab process is actually pretty long, so I'm just going to get this one out of the way. So I have a lot of bookmarks in my Queen mug. I'm just going to go through and pick based on like aesthetic vibes, etc., etc. I got a lot of just like random actual bookmarks in here, but then like I got a lot of Bella Sarah cards. Don't ask. And then I got some like cards from like blind book boxes in here. Look, anything can be a bookmark if you try hard enough. So I'll be right back with some options. Well, this is a first. I honestly didn't vibe with anything, but I picked this because it takes place Pacific Northwesty and vibes. And I just really love these bookmarks. So Amazon, by the way, for a set of 4. So for like, I don't remember how much, but I just picked that. It doesn't really go, but it kind of goes better than anything else that I had in here. So kind of an oversight on my part in terms of bookmarks. I guess that means I need more bookmarks. I mean, there's also like this, I guess, that kind of goes. Oh, that actually goes better. It's just, okay. It's giving, it's just like a reading tracker, but obviously I'm not going to use it. It's just going to be a bookmark. So, okay. I guess we'll go with that. So this is where I keep my tabs. Good old mason jar. I'm just going to take them out and BRB. So luckily, I kind of already have a purple one made, just like by pure chance. So I'm gonna work off of this, but I'm gonna use colors from the other ones. And normally I would build it on an empty one and build up my palette, but I'm just going to use this one and switch out. So I will be right back after I do all of that. Okay, this is the palette that I came up with. I needed 6 colors, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. I like it. It didn't take as long because I had already a lot to work with. So we're done. We're set. We're good to start reading now. I will wait to assign colors and everything like that until we start reading, and then we get to the first part where I want to annotate something, mark something, and then the first thing that I want to mark will become the first color. So say I get to a part where it's like really emotional and like I actually cry, boom, I cry. Or prose I love, etc. So yeah, that's all I have for you in terms of me annotating things and my tips for that and my process for that. So I would love to know if you annotate, how you annotate, what you annotate, and if you have any tips for me, because I would love that. Leave that down below. Next week, we have a very cool video. I will be talking about my faves and my flops for 2024. All my top books and all my lowest books of the year. So stay tuned for that. Wrapping everything up for the year in terms of what I've read. It'll be cool. It'll be fun. So I will see you then, and stay warm. I don't know. Time around.